Woo! So over this weekend, one of my favorite people in the world ended up getting exposed for her underhanded dealings in interfering with the 2020 election, for lack of better term, and suppressing information and people with opposing ideologies from her on the platform that she worked for. And if you can't guess who I'm talking about by now, I'll tell you what. It starts with a V, the last name starts with a G, and yeah, it's Vijaya Gadde. Hey, that's that Pokemon. But anyways, man, let me just tell you, this girl, she's a real piece of work, a real deal piece of work. Anybody who is familiar with her would more than likely be familiar with her from the Joe Rogan podcast episode, which she came on with Jack Dorsey and Tim Pool and sat down for 2 hours denying and looping around in a roundabout manner accusations that Tim Pool was sternly and very concisely throwing at them for the suppression that we knew was happening in 2020, surprise, surprise, about the election and just things on Twitter. This was when I didn't have any type of presence on Twitter, so I'm just looking as an onlooker, a person who cares about misinformation and disinformation getting out, a person who cares about the sanctity of our elections. So I'm watching it. I'll be honest with you, I was learning a lot of stuff for the first time about what's going on out there. These are things that I had already noticed from my experiences on Facebook, though, because all the social medias operate similarly, meaning that they don't all operate off of the same TNC terms and conditions and thoughts and the feelings of their admins and owner, but they all do operate off of a set of terms and conditions and the thoughts and feelings of their admins and their owners, who are human beings and seem to be left-leaning because of the tech industry. The tech industry just seems to draw that kind of person. So these people built this network, this infrastructure of these social medias that is the public communication network in 2022, and thought that they would be able to, and have been pretty successful at suppressing information that comes from opposing sides and being disseminated into opposing communities and stuff like that, basically bolstering the thoughts and opinions of their own side and making sure that that is what is disseminated freely while they have a stranglehold on opposing information. Well, she vehemently denied that, or she just kind of, basically, he would point out something that seemed like an unrightful suspension or didn't fit with the guidelines of how they claimed, or the reason that they claimed somebody got suspended. And she would be like, well, you just got to look at the terms and conditions. You have to understand the context of what it was happening. See, you breached it. You have to understand the context of the post. Well, the post is that it didn't meet these guidelines. Oh, okay. How did it not meet those guidelines? Because of the context. It was a joke. It really exposed a lot right then and there, in my opinion. It made it, the way that she was talking and running everything, made it seem like Jack Dorsey was not really in charge of everything. It really did seem like that. And I say all these things to, lo and behold, here we come to this weekend with the Twitter Files, episode 1, chapter 1, and everything that came out confirmed everything that Tim Pool was saying in that original podcast episode on Joe Rogan there. And surprise, surprise, Vijaya was one of the main culprits. Now, this harkens me back to whenever Elon Musk had originally purchased Twitter, when that had gotten completed. There was rumors that Vijaya Gadde was crying. And I laughed because I was like, oh, I knew that there was something that was coming. I knew that she was mad that their reign of terror had ended, but we didn't know how deep it was going to go and how quickly and efficiently these exposures were going to come. Thank you, Elon. But yeah, over those Twitter files, it turned out that she was basically primarily the one in charge of suppressing stories like the Hunter Biden story, suppressing high profile conservative and Republican Twitter accounts, posters, shit posters, memers, things like that, in the name of inciting violence or misinformation, all these different lies that the internal communications proved that they knew were lies that couldn't even be proven or justified. So yeah, I mean, I am not a legal expert, but as soon as I saw what was coming out, in my mind, based off of what we saw, I was like, oh yeah, Vijaya Gadde is going to jail. Like, you're going to prison for this. Do I say that that's 100% guaranteed to happen? No, because the system that we live in is too corrupt that people like that don't oftentimes see the justice that is due to them. But I will say that what she did definitely warrants it, from my humble opinion. So, she was, one of those people who was crying whenever Elon Musk came and took over the platform. A lot of people were confused as to why people were so upset, maybe even believing some of the things that they were saying about Elon. Even now, after the Twitter files get exposed, all of social media, not all of social media, excuse me, all of the news media, the mainstream media is coming out trying to say that Elon Musk is too dangerous with Twitter because of the increased hate speech, the increased incitements of violence and things like that, running blocking tactics against the information that's coming out. But the fact of the matter is that it's too late. The average person has become too curious, increasingly curious. When everybody was satiated, it was okay. But people are uncomfortable right now. And with all this information that's readily available to them that's coming out, where they get to make their choices on what they believe and all these kind of things, it's not going to be so easy to contain the